We were homeless. We were just bouncing around everywhere. Everything was just by the day. That was the lowest point, because I'm like, well, maybe I'm just not supposed to be a parent. But that only lasted for a day, and I was just like, this is my daughter. I'm not gonna give her up for anything.
Hello?
Barely surviving on the streets of LA, Mike got a call from distant relatives in the Bay Area, people he barely knew.
These folks put their heads together and were like, yo, come up here. Like, I can't believe you've been going through all of this stuff down there. You can come up to the Bay and you can get on your feet in no time. We'll help you watch Danielle if you get a job and stuff like that, so you won't have to worry. So they bought a plane ticket. And we got on the next day. When we came up here, we literally had nothing except for our clothes.
Hey, want some Cheerios?
That call changed everything. Here in the Bay, Mike found a job as a property manager and saved enough money for this tiny studio in Oakland. It doesn't have a kitchen or its own bathroom.
It's our place.
Put your shoes on.
It's our starting foundation.
Come on.
But after being homeless for months, it was a roof over their heads. But for so many single dads, especially those who have gotten in trouble with the law, having a home is out of reach, they say.
Basically, the hardest thing to do when you're struggling is to have an address.
Brandon is a handyman. He's just restarting these projects because for the last year and a half,
Yeah, tomorrow's probably going to be the drywall and the texture.
he was repairing something else, he says. Something he admits to damaging the last 10 years of his family's life.
I was living in my truck across the street from my mom's house for like a year. I stayed in the back of my Suburban. Substance abuse really is the bottom line. That's what it all came down to. Like it ruined me and my kid's mother's relationship.
His kids stayed with their grandmother in this trailer during those dark times, he says.
My worst day was probably sitting in jail, and I hadn't seen my kids for months, and I didn't know where they were, and that was just too much for me.
So you wanted to get out of that life?
Absolutely, yeah. I get, you know, it's, but it took 10 years of making bad decisions to realize like this is not going to work. Like you're never going to be able to be a father and raise these kids and get loaded at the same time.
Desperate to change, Brandon got his kids from his mother, left Benicia and his life of drugs, and came to Vacaville, where he met Colleen Baruman at Opportunity House. Like most emergency shelters around the Bay Area, it only served women. But when a single dad showed up to her door, Colleen changed the rules.
And he said, I need a place to stay. I can't have my children if I don't have a place to stay. The fact that he wanted to be a present parent, a fact that he was stepping up, and there was no one to help him to do that. And it broke my heart.
Colleen moved Brandon and his two kids into a small room with bunk beds. He says he was finally able to start chipping away at the wreckage of his past.
Because I don't know where I would be right now. I don't know where I'd be. I don't know where they would be.
By they, you mean your kids?
Yeah, I really don't know. I couldn't tell you. Things were getting worse.
When we met Brandon, he was hitting another roadblock, trying to rent a home.
Well, so they have so many stipulations on what the perfect tenant looks like that I mean, I don't qualify. So right now it's just the income threshold. Like, and then if it's not the income threshold, well then it's your criminal history.
Did you know that it is not illegal to discriminate against people based on their behavior
In 1992, Officer Tim Ziering from Mesa, Arizona, started a law enforcement-run housing program that shows landlords how they can keep tenants like Brandon out of their rental properties.
In fact, if a person has a violent criminal history, you can turn them down for your rental housing.
It's called crime-free housing, and it's designed to keep criminal behavior out of rentals. The website says it's spread to 2,000 cities around the world. We reached out to Ziering to ask about his program, but he never responded. After weeks of data collecting and reaching out to every city in the Bay Area, our team found hundreds of crime-free housing developments locally. They're mostly in these 11 cities.
We saw over and over again landlords unwilling to even consider one of our clients for housing because of this policy.
Louis Shequin is CEO of Abode Services, a Fremont nonprofit dedicated to ending homelessness.
We challenged the fundamental assumption that just because someone had a problem when they were younger, years ago often, that they're going to have a problem going forward.
This NYU study found crime-free housing not only keeps out people with troubled pasts, it also discriminates against blacks and Latinos who have more contacts with police. The study compares crime-free housing to Jim Crow laws, saying the program has a whitening effect on some communities and a blackening effect on others.
This is an example of institutional racism.
I'm applying to places and I'm begging and pleading. Look, I'm a changed person. Here's my son here, I'm a father.
In our next episode of No Man's Land.
Here you compare crime and people with criminal records to a dangerous dinosaur. And then there's an actual picture of a dinosaur that your program says needs to be killed while still in the egg.
See what happens when we hold a Bay Area official accountable for their city's crime-free housing program.